All You Need to Know, the Bloomberg Quint podcast that prepares you for the day's business. Good morning and thanks for listening in. This is the All You Need to Know podcast on Bloomberg Quint and I'm Alex Matthew. Today is the 11th of August. Here's everything that you need to know. In the infrastructure space, the government has identified and listed 6,835 projects under the 111 crore National Infrastructure Pipeline, which is an effort to attract investments in infrastructure development. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman yesterday launched the information repository of all projects identified under the National Infrastructure Pipeline. Investors can use the India Investment Grid, as it is called, to access information on infrastructure projects and form public-private partnerships with the government. Now, it's no secret that the economy has borne the brunt of the lockdown to curb the spread of the coronavirus. But perhaps the stress on the ground is not as clear when one takes the top-down bird's-eye view of economic activity. A survey by rural media platform Gaon Connection sought to capture employment generation by the government's flagship program during the lockdown, and the results were not encouraging. Only a fifth of the households surveyed by Gaon Connection saw a family member find employment under India's MNREGA, that is the flagship Rural Jobs Guarantee Program, during the lockdown. The platform spoke to over 25,300 respondents in 179 districts across 20 states and 3 union territories. A total of 963 supplementary interviews with migrants who had travelled back to their hometowns have also been included. Another key takeaway from the survey was that nearly 70% of respondents faced high to very high monetary difficulty during the lockdown. In the aviation space, the Airports Authority of India has decided to put GoAir on cash and carry basis from today because of non-payment of dues, meaning that the low-cost airline will now have to pay charges daily at AAI airports to operate flights from there. That's according to a PTI report, and it's indicative of the stress in the aviation sector. In international news, China says it will sanction 11 Americans in retaliation for similar measures that were imposed by the US on Friday, but the list doesn't include any members of the Trump administration. That's according to a Bloomberg report. Those sanctioned include Senators Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, Tom Cotton, and Pat Toomey, among others. The US said on Friday that it was placing sanctions on 11 Chinese officials and their allies in Hong Kong, including the city's chief executive Carrie Lam, over their roles in curtailing political freedoms there. The Chinese officials that announced the sanctions did not indicate what the sanctions would entail. In other international news, Lebanon's Prime Minister Hassan Diab has confirmed the resignation of his government as an outraged public demanded accountability for last week's explosion at Beirut's port, which is the biggest peacetime catastrophe in the nation's history. Several ministers had already quit in the aftermath of the disaster, including the finance and justice ministers earlier yesterday. In international markets, US equities ended mixed, with the Dow outperforming its two peers, gaining 1.3% in the first trading session of the week. The S&P 500 ended higher by 0.33%, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq declined 0.4%. In the Asia-Pacific region, all three early risers have started with gains this morning. And with that, it's over to Hormuz Fatakia for the trade setup for the day in India. Good morning, Hormuz. How are we looking today?
Good morning to you, Alex, and to our listeners as well. The Nifty Bank has been rising for 5 straight sessions now, and from earnings to fundraising, banks will remain in focus for today's session as well. Let's talk about the fundraising bit first. And ICICI Bank has launched a QIP issue to raise as much as 15,000 crore rupees. The floor price for the issue is a 3.5% discount to Monday's closing price. Staying with banks, Bank of Baroda has reported a net loss for the June quarter owing to higher provisions. The state-run lender said that 21% of its total loan book remains under moratorium. On to Nifty earnings now, and Titan reported a higher than expected net loss for the June quarter. Sales for the jewelry segment, which forms a bulk of the company's revenue, more than halved compared to last year. The other two Nifty 50 companies, Shree Cement and Power Grid, reported numbers that were largely in line with expectations. Other non-index names that will react to earnings that were reported late on Monday include HEG, V-Mart Retail, Ujjivan Financial Services, amongst others. Apart from Adani Ports, which will be the only Nifty constituent to report numbers today, the list of non-index names includes Bajaj Electricals, Bosch, Metropolis Healthcare, Motherson Sumi, Pratap Snacks, Rights, Symphony, amongst others. On to some other fundraising news now. Indigo's board has approved raising 4,000 crore rupees through a QIP. The fundraise is subject to shareholder and regulatory approval. Kotak Mahindra Bank has stated that it has achieved compliance with promoter shareholding reduction requirement as per the directives from the Reserve Bank of India and within the prescribed timelines of the central bank. Public institutional shareholders have given their approval to the delisting proposal of Hexaware Technologies, so that will be one stock to watch out for. Triveni Engineering, a company with a 1700 crore market cap, has approved a share buyback worth 65 crore rupees. The buyback price is a 48% premium to Monday's closing price. Pharma stocks have been the flavor of the season, and Granules India is no exception. The stock has gained over 35% since it announced its June quarter earnings on July the 17th. It ended at a record high on Monday, and you can catch the company's growth plans going ahead on Talking Point on Bloomberg Quint today at 9:30 a.m. I mentioned to you yesterday about domestic investors being net sellers over the last 5 trading sessions. The streak has extended to a 6th day on Monday, with domestic investors selling shares worth over 500 crore rupees. You can catch details on all of these stocks in our All You Need to Know copy. And with that, I wish you a safe day ahead and hand it back to Alex.
Thanks, Hormuz, and as always, thank you all for listening in. This is Alex Matthews signing off. Have a great day.
I hope you enjoyed listening to All You Need to Know. Did you know that you can listen to the show on the IVM Podcast app? On the IVM Podcast app, along with this, we have a number of other shows which you think you'll enjoy. Listen to Cyrus Says with Cyrus Brocha as the host. Listen to Pesa Vesa with Anupam Gupta. The Scene and the Unseen with Amit Verma. Or Shunya One hosted by Shiladitya Mukhopadhyay and myself. Check out the IVM Podcast app to get more talk content that you will enjoy.